what makes this company great? Samsung. Let's look at the company and understand if it's financially world-class and what is its competitive strengths. Why is this important? Well, as an investor or as a business owner, what's the whole objective we're trying to do in business is make our companies financially and competitive, financially strong and competitive. So that's why I love to try to understand companies and what is their competitive advantage. But most importantly, is their core competency driving true, sustainable competitive advantage? And we can only know that as we're taught by the masters in the field, like Michael Porter. We're taught that it must come through the financial performance of the company. So the company we're going to look at today is Samsung. And the question we're going to ask is the company financially world-class? Now, if we look at Samsung's revenue based upon region, 39% of revenue comes from Americas, 17% from Europe, 16% from Asia, Africa, 16% from Korea, and 12% from China. Right there, you can see, wow, a competitive strength is its global reach. So that is something we can see right there in that. I just wanted to say hi to Farhana. Great to see you. Been missing some of our conversations. Hopefully we'll see you on one of our groups in the future. So why is Samsung so successful? Well, first, they've done a lot of R&D and they've converted that into innovative tech. They become a pioneer in developing new technology like semiconductor, memory, and the like. Well, they have great branding. In fact, after seeing Apple's success, Samsung decided to establish Galaxy as a brand of high-quality devices, a smart move. And it's a global business and product strategies are global. It's a fast-paced organization in terms of innovation, culture, and product ideas. These are some of the things that have made Samsung successful. Let's look at the revenue structure here. Samsung Mobile produces about 38% of revenue. 23% of revenue comes from Samsung Memory and 11% from the display business. The best sellers for the company are Galaxy S22 Ultra. Any of you guys own that one? I have to admit, I'm an Apple guy, but their devices I've seen are pretty amazing when my friends have shown me what they can do. Galaxy A13, you have that one? And the Galaxy S22. These are the best sellers for their mobile devices. Now let's go back in time and meet B.C. Lee. He lived for 77 years, from 1910 until 1987. He was a founder of the Samsung Group, one of Korea's most successful businessmen. And of course, he started in another area, but eventually started Samsung in about 1969, the Samsung we know. So let's look at his background. He's a businessman and a founder of Samsung, and he started Samsung in 1938 as a trading company. And prior to Samsung, he set up a wool factory in 1954 that became the largest wool factory in South Korea. It was in 1969 that it's officially known as the starting date for Samsung as we know it, and their first product was a black and white TV. And then by the late 1960s, Samsung already had 6 divisions focused on departments like semiconductors, hardware, and the like. It is a true conglomerate. And actually, when you think about conglomerates, one of the challenges that conglomerates face is that if the conglomerate has companies that are listed in the stock market, it's a little bit different than if the conglomerate has companies that aren't listed in the stock market. Let's say that you want to invest in a country like Thailand, as an example, and you have a choice of investing in the stock market in many different companies, or you could invest in a conglomerate like we have in Thailand, Siam Cement or PTT. Now, if you invest in that conglomerate and they own a bunch of listed companies in the stock market, then you usually see that that conglomerate's valuation in the stock market is low. Why? Because investors think, why should I pay a premium to buy this conglomerate that then owns the listed companies that maybe I want and maybe I don't want. I'm forced to buy them all. Let's say that there's a time that a subsidiary that is a listed company of the conglomerate is not doing that well. Maybe I don't want that in my portfolio. So I could construct the portfolio without owning the conglomerate. Now, let's now imagine another conglomerate where all the companies that they own are unlisted. They're not in the stock market. Now, that is really interesting because when I buy your company, you're giving me access to many companies that you're investing in that I couldn't get access to in the stock market. So therefore, it's possible that the multiple, the PE multiple or price to book or any other multiple could be at a higher level than if it was just a company, a holding company that was just holding listed companies. And that's why we have a conglomerate discount. Let's go back in and, in Korea, we see big discounts in the market over the years. So I wanted to kind of understand, is this a family business or not? So we have first B.C. Lee as the founder and first chairman, and we have K.H. Lee, who's the son of B.C. Lee, and he's the second and the current chairman. And then we have J.Y. Lee, who is the son of K.H. So in fact, Samsung is a family business in Asia. Now, I want to talk about family business for just a moment because, one of the things that I saw in America was the destruction of the family. And it's really, really sad to see that in America, where I grew up, so few people have a healthy family of a mother and father. Many young people are struggling with single parents, single mothers, single fathers, and that's tough. One of the things that I really appreciate about Thailand when I moved to Thailand and as I've lived in Thailand is the real, true appreciation of family. And what I also started to realize in business is that family business is not bad. If you're in America, I was taught as a young MBA student that family business is bad and it should be, public and the family shouldn't have control. Nonsense. There's plenty of family businesses around the world, listed in the stock market or not, that are great businesses run by great families. Of course, you don't want to invest with a bad family who's going to rip you off. That's always the case. But it doesn't have to be a family to rip you off. There's many companies that are run not as family businesses that rip you off in the stock market. So I just wanted to highlight that this is the reason why I really like to work with family businesses and I appreciate family businesses. And I want to encourage companies in Asia to protect your family heritage in that business and build upon that. Don't see it as a negative. Look at the case of Toyota. We've seen 12 presidents of Toyota since its founding, and 7 of them were family members. It doesn't mean that a non-family member can't run the business, but to keep the strength of the family as a backbone is nothing wrong with that. So let's continue on to understand more. Recently, it's been pretty awful with profits down 95%. It was a slowdown in revenue that they've recently had and a bit of a squeeze in margin. I'm sure there were some other exceptional items. I haven't had time to go through it all for first quarter. So Samsung as a whole was founded in 1938, but the Samsung we know as investable in the stock market was founded in 1969. It's got about 320,000 employees and revenue of $234 billion. So it has been very successful. And Samsung smartphones, consumer electronics, and semiconductors are the main products and segments. So what's its competitive advantage? Well, the competitive advantage through technological innovation, diverse product offerings, and global market presence. So how was it achieved? By investing heavily in R&D, producing cutting-edge consumer electronics, and establishing strong supply chains and effective management campaigns. But the real question we have to ask is, does that competitive strength produce a competitive advantage? In other words, is the company financially world-class? What do you think? So here's how I measure competitive advantage as an investor and business owner myself. I use our world-class benchmarking scorecard that I created 10 years ago. I've been using it forever. And basically, here's how we construct the world-class benchmarking scorecard for any company. We gather the yearly and quarterly financial data of 26,000 companies worldwide. We then calculate each company's profitable growth score, which is our composite measure of both profitability and growth. After that, we rank the subject company, like in this case, Samsung, relative to sector peers of a similar size. It needs to be a similar size, or else, it doesn't make sense to compare Samsung, which is a massive company, to some startup that could grow very, very fast. And we use a decile ranking where 1 is best and 10 is worst. If you see on the scorecard a 1 or a 2, that company is financially world-class. And we assess the company's performance over the prior 4 years and the past 12 months. And here we have it. We're benchmarking Samsung against 660 large infotech companies. And what do we find? The score of Samsung, and I'll zoom in on that, the score of Samsung is 5 in 2019, which is very average, 4 in 2020, which is impressive that they improved during the COVID time, and then 3, they increased their profitable growth score even better to 3 in 2021, and for 2022, they got up to 2 ranking. That is impressive improvement, but is it financially world-class? Unfortunately, no. Only the year of 2022, and we need to see that it's sustainable. So congratulations to Samsung from going to a 5 to a 2. Keep pushing and driving your business so that you can get up to be financially world-class. In fact, let's look at the net profit margin of Samsung here just to understand a little bit more. And what you can see from the net profit margin is that Samsung has a net profit margin of about 14 to 18%. Now already, really, again, a very excellent performance by Samsung at 18% net profit margin. It's 3 times the global average of 6%. But man, they've got such tough competition, and that is Apple. And Apple has got to double that in net profit margin. And that just shows the power of Apple's products, the power of Apple's branding. Now, what I would say is what you also see in Korea is that in Korea, many of the companies trade at a very low PE or price to book ratio. You never see super high valuations. So there are times that you can get this great quality company, Samsung, and get it at a very low price relative to Apple. And so some people invest for that particular purpose. So now we've determined that Samsung is excellent, but not financially world-class consistently right now. Well, my question to you is your company financially world-class? Do you own or lead a company with greater than $15 million in annual revenue? Just comment or DM me and I'll score your company. And that wraps up what makes this company great for Samsung. I hope it was helpful for you. Feel free to leave a comment. Have a great day.